My name is Manuel Manyati, representing the Zimbabwe Coalitions Against Child Marriages. We are commemorating 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Gender-based violence is a cancer or is a problem that is eating Zimbabwean women today. I grew up in a family that was involved in gender-based violence. I witnessed my mom suffering violence from my dad. So this also prompted me to work with young women or women in marginalized areas. We have also discovered that women or young women who are involved in gender-based violence, or who have or couples who are involved in gender-based violence have been married or have been involved in child marriages. So child marriages have also contributed to the rise or escalation of gender-based violence in Zimbabwe. As a coalition, we are committed to fight gender-based violence, but today we also call upon the government of Zimbabwe to impose stiffer penalties against offenders of child marriages and offenders of gender-based violence. We would also like to see the government imposing stiffer penalties, just like what they do to the Keso rustlers. They should also do the same to those who abuse women, to those who do violence against women in Zimbabwe, so that we can achieve zero cases of gender-based violence in Zimbabwe in the next years to come. We have issues of poverty. Poverty are driving young girls into child marriages, are driving poor families to marry off their children, and those children married off without their consent is also a form of gender-based violence or violence against women. We rebuke all those we rebuke all those systems, we rebuke all those mindsets that children should be married off to avoid poverty or hunger in the family. Here in Zimbabwe, we also have women who also abuse their husbands. It is not only husbands that abuse women, so we also call upon women or young women or women of all ages to respect their husbands. Also to have a good communication and dialogue with their husbands in order to mitigate this scourge of this pandemic. So we call upon women to respect them, to impose good communication skills with their children and their husbands, and not to retribute violence against violence, but to engage in positive talk with their couples or with their husbands, so that we end gender-based violence in Zimbabwe. And the laws should be applied equally to either women or men who initiate or who spark gender-based violence in homes. The government of Zimbabwe and other players in the community and authorities should also hold religious affiliations accountable for issues of gender-based violence and forced or early child marriages in Zimbabwe, because we actually see that there are some religious affiliations that have been granted immunity by either politicians or the government. So these religious affiliations should not cross the red line. They should abide by the Constitution of Zimbabwe to respect women or young girls as equal, to respect their decisions, to respect them, so that as well as creating safer space for women and the girl child to avoid these issues of gender-based violence and forced child marriages. Early and forced child marriages are also a sign of gender-based violence or violence against women. As we commemorate these 16 days of activism in Zimbabwe, we call upon the government to make sure that churches abide by the Constitution of Zimbabwe. There is freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, but they should not surpass or they should not overpower the Constitution of Zimbabwe, which is the supreme law of land.